I'm your host, Dr. Kimberly Wilson, and we have with us today Tonya Fitzpatrick Esquire. She is a former recovering attorney and now a world traveler who does travel journalism. Welcome, Tonya.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Kim.
Oh, you're more than welcome. I'm very excited to have you here today because your story is just so fascinating. I really want to know how you made this switch from attorney and politics to travel journalism because that's not something that people would normally think of.
Yeah, it's a big leap, but in all honesty, I've lived my life in leaps of faith. I've done just a really quick backstory. I've done silly things in my earlier years that I wouldn't do today, like move abroad, move to England with
Wow.
London, England, with only $300 in my pocket, uh,
Wow.
and no plan. And I ended up getting into a graduate program in a world-class institution, the London School of Economics. I ended up staying there for a few years and then going back and forth. But I did that on faith. So when I made the leap from law, and I still do a little bit of law, in all honesty, it just doesn't consume me like it used to. But when I made that leap from law and politics to follow my purpose, which happened to be my passion as well, um, you know, it was on really the foundation of faith, and it's a continuous faith walk. In all honesty, it's it hasn't been easy, but I had to follow my heart, and I know what I'm doing right now with World Footprints is my heart work.
Mhm.
Practicing law and being immersed in politics is not.
That is such a beautiful story. And I think because I've met many attorneys who honestly sometimes regret they feel like the juice is not worth the squeeze, and but they're not sure how to pivot, or especially when they get used to that type of income.
Hmm.
And many face these obstacles to making the shift, but now you had supporters to ensure that you could shift, right?
Well, I have my husband, who's also a lawyer, and also trying to make the jump from law to what we're doing with World Footprints and his own other personal endeavors. Um, but again, it's not easy in a high income city as Washington D.C. or the Metro Washington D.C. Area is, to not making any money as a travel journalist. That that was stressful. It's been a source of stress, and it continues to be, as we continue to scale and move forward on things. So, yeah, I think because I also live with a keen understanding that we're not here forever, and we, as we all do, we have limited time, and so I wanted to make sure that I am living my purpose. The reason why I'm here. I do not want to not pursue the things that I know I'm supposed to do. And with World Footprints, because of the type of travel that we talk about, the social impact travel, and using travel or talking about travel to illuminate our common humanity and really bring cultures together, that's meaningful. Arguing with people in court is not. Um,
Agreed. And when I was on your site, that was quite evident that you tried to bring about travel experiences for a variety of different people and different perspectives. Because one person can tell you, oh my goodness, you have to visit X. It is the best place ever. But just like I know that sometimes being in this wrapper of skin, I may not be welcome. It may not be the best place ever for me.
Hmm. Yeah, and Ian and I, when we have been on different press trips, many times we've been the only one, and so the last couple of years we've been really involved with others in our community, um, kind of amplifying the need for diversity, equity, and inclusion, particularly among our folks, and especially journalists. There's been a lot of controversy within our industry, the travel journalism industry, where um, countries that are populated with Black and Brown people
Hmm.
not bringing in Black and Brown writers to write about their destination, but other writers who don't look like you or I. And I think the industry is trying to make a shift,
Right.
um, because it's important. And, as it is important to talk about accessible travelers and countries that may or may not, be friendly to their vehicles, whether they're in a wheelchair or a walker. Or they have autism, or there's accessibility. It carries a large falls under a large umbrella, uh, and so I think that's why, with travel, in our conversations about travel, what we have attempted to do just from our own personal travels is share our truthful narrative and not the narrative that maybe mainstream media is offering, talking about. Um, and so in a place like, for example, Alabama, when we first went to Alabama, I was nervous. I'm a child of the North. I'm
Right.
mouthy. And I thought, oh, I'm going to get in trouble. Um, but we were very welcomed. In another place, Sochi, Russia, when we went to Sochi for the 2014 Olympic Games, there are not a lot of people of color in, the Black Sea, the southern part of Russia. And
Right.
and so instead of maybe being followed or scrutinized, particularly my husband, he was treated like a rock star because they thought he was a celebrity. Um, and so, the truth, getting back to your original point, that the truth is that yes, as people of color, there are places that do not welcome us. However, that place is not inclusive of a community that does not welcome us. Maybe a couple of people within, that particular community
Right.
would not be comfortable with us. And so we also try to talk about uh, the care and about not treating a community, or painting one community with a broad brush, and looking for those people who are interested in getting to know us and do see us as human beings, and more so than just a figment of or a lesson or an other. So there's a lot of work that we do in the travel space.
Right.
We like to have fun. Give me a beach any day.
Me
But
too.
travel goes deeper than
Okay.
just going out, enjoying and eating. It's about really connecting with other people and recognizing the humanity in us all.
Right. And we're going to get back to this. Let me take a commercial break and we are going to continue with some of those experiences.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Greg Russell. I'm the host of TechnologyTuesday.com. You can find us on the Conscious Business TV network every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the latest resources to help you make more money in your business. Join us on E360 TV. Come on.
Welcome back to Leading Beyond Burnout. And here we're here with Tonya Fitzpatrick, who is a former attorney and the ambassador for World Footprints for Travel. Now, I wanted to I wanted to share one of the experiences I had actually with accessibility. When we were doing our dissertation, we had one of our classmates. She was typically wheelchair bound, and she informed the school that they knew about her accessibility issues. But what we got to see unfold right there in front of us was that it was not properly planned for her accessibility issues. And she actually ended that trip. It was very difficult for us to see because she actually was permanently injured because she had to use her crutches a lot more than she normally does, and it required multiple surgeries. So that is really important work, just me seeing that happen to someone I know personally when that is not considered. So thank you for having something like that. I would have never thought of that beforehand.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, again, going back to my purpose, I think it's my purpose to raise awareness about various issues, from DEI to human rights, and we can talk about that later. But there are certain things, the environment. There are certain things that I feel personally very important about educating people about through discussions of travel. Um, and, just as an aside, we have a friend, he's a very popular travel blogger. He's doing quite well. He's a wheelchair traveler. And, the things that he has to do in order to be accommodated or
Right.
prepare for a flight, or things that, we take for granted. And
Absolutely.
but we're seeing again a sea shift. I think there's an airline actually. I don't remember if it's Delta or American. It might be Delta, but they're actually creating space for a wheelchair to come on board. So
Oh, beautiful.
our friend, he has to change wheelchairs. They have
Right.
to bring him in an airline wheelchair. His wheelchair is about 400 pounds, and I can't tell you
Wow.
how many times it's gotten broken from ground crew. But this way, the adjustments that are being made will allow him to come and fly in his wheelchair. So
Beautiful.
I'm excited about those advancements.
Right, he gets to remain comfortable.
Mhm.
And now I wanted to go back just a little bit before you were in your purpose and you were an attorney and you were in politics and you found that it wasn't fulfilling. When did you first start getting those inklings? Was it burnout or was there a certain event that made you say enough?
Well, let's see. Law school created, its own set of burnout moments. But really, I think once I graduated and my very first job was as an assistant prosecutor in Muskegon, Michigan. And I came home every week with 50 to 75 files
Wow.
for next week's docket. And, and I studied, I wanted to do well. And so I think really within the first week of really kind of practicing law, my first job, I thought, okay, this may not be for me. That said, I did some great things. I pled out some cases, people, first offenders, if they just had a little tiny, roach, wacky backy, I call it, if it was found in there, I didn't want their lives to be ruined by that, and so, we negotiated, their counsel and the judge and myself negotiated, substance abuse training, with an expungement, so I did little things like that, and, but it got worrisome or wary. It wore on me, and so I wasn't there that long. And then I went into public interest law and did employment work and uh, mostly employment work, I think. And there was a huge sense of burnout there as
Why
well.
so?
Because for me, it's almost like family law. I've never done family law because I knew I would get too invested in the stories and the clients, and it would wear myself out. Well, I did the same thing with within the public interest law field, and that's what happens when you have a heart of a servant and you want to help people. You really want to help people, and you don't see them as dollar sign, like and I was in a public interest space, so there wasn't any money coming in. It was on salary. I didn't have billable hours, but that said, I still got invested in clients, and so I learned pretty quickly that maybe this field isn't for me, or the direction I was going, and I looked at other things like international adoption. Um, and I never really got too involved with that. But I think more so I was looking for ways to go back overseas because I really missed living overseas. Uh,
Right.
so, and then I ended up in Washington, D.C. and in politics. And golly, those were all industries and fields. I had no life. I absolutely had no life. There's no such thing as work-life balance. And
Wow.
so
And how did you begin to know this, like this is not healthy for me. This is not what I should be doing. Was it just the lack of personal time or what?
Um, lack of personal time, lack of freedom. I'm a
Mm,
traveler. I always have been a traveler, and um, it was very difficult to come back to this country and only get 1 week of holiday or 2 weeks at most for the first 5 years. When my first year in England, as a I worked full time as I went to school. I got 4 weeks holiday in
mhm.
that first year, and so I had an expectation that my holiday time would be 4 to 5 weeks long.
Wrong.
I know, only in this country. Um, but there were just a number of factors, and I think more so, there was a tugging. I felt a tugging that I was supposed to be doing something else,
Okay.
and I didn't know what that something else was until Ian and I were on a trip when my husband and I started dating, and we flew out to California, and I met a woman and her sister at a happy hour. I mean, I talk to everybody. I'm from Michigan. I say hi to a tree. And she happened to be a life coach. And it was because of our conversation and the conversations my husband and I had subsequently that I determined that I needed to pursue the two things that I have always had a passion
Right.
for: travel and horses. And
Oh, I didn't know that part.
yeah, yeah, I'm a former equestrian. I always wanted to own a horse as a young kid. I grew up in kind of a country town, or spent a lot of time in a country town, so I grew up around horses.
Mhm.
But they're expensive, and so we looked
Yeah.
at travel. And within a month after that particular meeting, we started a travel agency. We had incorporated, filed our papers of incorporation, and found a host and started a travel agency, and we're doing quite well until one of our media, we started doing a lot of media in DC, and that caught the attention of a top station here, radio station.
Mhm.
They called us to do a travel show, and the rest is really history. So, so I'm in the media space because we followed a passion, and these other things followed us.
Okay, okay. And I put up your site because I wanted
Oh,
people who wanted to follow you to be able to connect and see your beautiful journey as you all go all over the place and get the value from your other contributors to your site as well, because you all don't do the only writing, correct?
Right. We have other writers. We started as a podcast, and our podcast has won significant awards and recognitions, and we have interviewed really notable people like Dr. Maya Angelou. We
Wow.
interviewed her right before she passed, and other people that you know from either CBS Soaps or politics or explorers. So
Wow.
there are a lot of recognizable names that we've had the blessing of the pleasure of interviewing.
Wow. And none of that would have happened if you didn't pivot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just, honestly, Ken, the things that we've been able to experience because of that pivot, because, we made a decision to walk out on faith. And again, it has not been easy. There's nothing easy about that.
Right.
But because we did that, we've met these wonderful people. We've been, in the White House several times. I photographed President Obama with the South Korean president years ago, and I'm like, who would have ever thought that I would end up, photographing the president in the Oval Office?
It,
Um,
right. That's so. But out of most people's frame of even considering. So, what do you do, Tanya, to avoid burnout? Because I know even travel
mhm.
can be very stressful when you think about the hustle and bustle of that, and getting to the airport and packing. And what is your strategy to just feel calm and not feel
Uh,
all the stress?
I am, if we're talking pre boarding, um, I I calm down after we get through the security gate, and we make sure, we have TSA pre-check, we have global entry for a return from an international trip. Um, and so we're able to get cut through security and customs pretty quickly. Um, and once I'm beyond that gate, the security gate, if there's ample time, we will find an airport lounge and just relax in there. That's kind of one of my little pre-trip secrets. You go in, have something to eat, have a couple of cocktails, and just really relax, or even work if there's work that we need to do. Um, on the trip, because most of the trips where we are working, we make, and I say we, my husband and I make a point of not working constantly. We will
Mm,
make a point of just enjoying going out to dinner or spending some time alone. Um, just he and I, if we're with a group of other journalists, or just us, we'll spend time on the beach. And so we are very intentional about how much time we work when we're traveling. Um, and I think that's been very important for us to keep some form of balance to our marriage as
right.
well, and not, take these blessings of travel and constantly, you know, see ourselves in front of computer screens typing or what have you.
Right. I think you bring up such a good point, because whether I'm traveling or even just going out, sometimes I'll just stop and
Mm,
I'll look around, and everybody's head is bowed. They are sitting right in front of each other and
mhm,
not connecting. Uh,
mhm.
I've even had to. There was a dear friend. We were at dinner or something, and I can remember saying, "If you pick up that phone one more time, I'm leaving."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're all guilty of that. I remember a trip Ian and I did. It was our first trip to Alaska. I was on a small yacht, and we were going through Glacier Bay. At that time, I was working as deputy assistant secretary at the Department of Education, and so I had
Wow.
my work phone, and I had my personal cell phone. And he took both of those phones because as we're leaving the harbor, I mean, when you're at that level, you're being contacted constantly.
Right.
And he took my phones and he said, you need to put these in the safe. And that first day I put the phones in the safe, I had the jitters. But after that, I'm like, we got back to Juneau. We were in and out of Juneau, Alaska. We got back and another day went by and I didn't turn my phone on. It was so liberating to be disconnected from, the smartphones at that time. And so I make a point of doing that. And certainly when we're having dinner, if we're having dinner out, now I will have my phone because I photograph the food. The camera eats first, so I have to take pictures.
I don't think I've ever heard that before.
It's true. The camera always eats first. So, but so I will have my phone and I will photograph, but then I'll get back to, just enjoying our meal and talking. And I'll, I may see something if, we're on the water, I'll pull the phone back out and take a photo. And then that's that. So I won't go through the motion of posting everything on social media. I'll do that later in the evening or, the following day. So that's kind of, that's something I will confess to.
So you all do some constructing of your time, and it seems like you also have a partner who watches out and makes sure that you're not going too deep in the hole and you don't even begin to put your feet in the burnout pool because he's like, I'm just taking it all.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that doesn't happen.
Okay.
As an entrepreneur as well, when you're working, I can't tell you how many hours a day I work. I can tell you that I have been averaging the last couple of months about 4 hours sleep a night, and that's very
Whoa.
healthy.
Yeah.
And I know that. And that's something I'm working on because now it's becoming a problem. But when you're working that many hours and you're really trying to scale and, and I'm doing two things. I'm still doing a little bit of the legal stuff, as well to, keep things moving financially. So, when you have those set of demands, burnout happens. But I recognize, burnout in me presents itself in a lot of really different ways. I get agitated easily. I can become slightly depressed, because I'm letting my tank run dry. And so those things happen and I recognize it when it does happen. And so I make a point of monitoring my blood pressure. We have a so I make sure that my blood pressure is steady, particularly during those stressful times. And I do try to focus on sleep. It comes and goes. I remain hydrated. I make sure I'm hydrated. There was a time I was drinking close to a gallon of water a day. I think I'm down to a half a gallon a day, which is still, I could still do more. But I am very purposeful in, and let me back up. And I also exercise. So I do yoga and I will take a little time out of the middle of my day to do a yoga class or to walk outside or to drive and get my hair done and enjoy, especially if it's a nice day. And that's enough to start filling my tank back up to rejuvenate me. Those are little secrets.
Yes, and I love that you mentioned that you take little bits of time out of the day. People forget or don't even realize how important that is, that it doesn't take, oh, I've got to meditate for an hour, I need to run for 30 minutes. You know, they feel like they've got to carve out all these huge chunks of time.
Mhm.
And often it doesn't happen because it takes too much time. But you
Right.
can do it in those small increments. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, listen, this little thing talks to me. This is my Apple Watch, and it tells me time to stand. And when it says time to stand, I may just, from my chair, do squats. So I'm
Mm.
moving, or I'll walk out into the living room and come back, just to get my steps. Little things like that. Meditation and I is an evolving journey. My mind is constantly moving, so I can't say that I'm a good meditator. And most of the time, I'll usually fall asleep because I'm tired.
But that's good.
Yeah,
You obviously needed the rest.
I know. I know. I'm not disciplined enough to just quiet my mind. That's a challenge, and that's a journey.
Exactly, exactly. I definitely wanted to get back as well to what you were sharing about your work with DEI
Mm.
and just where you're taking the company in general, because you all are really leaders in your space.
Thank you. I would hope so. You know, our focus has always been social impact. When we had the travel agency, uh, I I told myself I want people trips that I book for people. I want them to have meaning. I want them to come back transformed. I want to see them connected to other cultures or more comfortable with people who don't look like them. So I had a
Mhm.
mission as a travel agency owner to really illuminate our common humanity. And so when we closed the agency down and really focused on the media side, that mission had always been there. And um, we before we started the media company, or even the agency for that matter, we honeymooned in South Africa, and there was a word that we learned called Ubuntu.
Mhm.
And so that always, it's the meaning of Ubuntu. I am because we are,
Mhm.
resonated with me. And so World Footprints was really founded on the principle, the philosophy of Ubuntu.
Right.
So that is part of our DNA. It's, not something that is kind of, we've just adopted because it's trending right now, or this is something that we were early adopters, I guess, of meaningful, responsible travel that's impactful.
That's beautiful. And I think anyone who travels to South Africa, the people are just so beautiful. I got the opportunity to go to Johannesburg, and where did we go?
Cape Town,
Ma'am?
Cape Town.
No, I didn't. That's going to be my. I went twice. I did not go to Cape Town because I was doing research. So that is. I want to head to Cape Town. I want to head to Durban, and just everyone was so kind and just a beautiful experience, and just seeing the landscape and the museum. The museum. Oh, that's just that's
With
an experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful country. The food, we're food is one of our love languages. The food is fabulous. But just the experience of whether you go to Stellenbosch, the wine region, or
Mhm.
up to Kruger on safari. I mean, it's very transformational. And that has been one of our favorite trips. Mind you, it was our honeymoon too. But that trip
Ah.
was, really, it's just, it's, uh, it has a place in our heart.
right. And hold on for 1 second. We're going to take a commercial break.
Hello, join me, Stacy Bullock, host of Tools for Everyday Living on E360's Positive Vibrations channel every Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on E360 TV.
Welcome back, Tonya. Uh, and you have so many layers. I mean, just when I look at your life and look at your website, and now you're a two-time TEDx speaker as well. Uh, it's
Three.
three times. Oh, three times. Like I said, multiple layers, and you just added another. Tell us about what it was like to be a TEDx speaker, and what do you like about it?
Wow. The thing that I really love about public speaking is that it's performative, and I come from a background of theater, and so, it's nice to be in front of an audience and connecting with them on a different level and getting the applause. So I think, that's what's attracted me to this pursuit of public speaking as well. Um, the TEDx series is wonderful opportunities that I've been given. And the first one, though, I was incredibly nervous. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no
Right.
idea if my talk would resonate. I actually, there's a point I was, gosh, what was it? I can't remember my first talk. I think was on the pursuit of passion, and so it's kind of sharing my story. But part of that story, um, oh, I might get choked up, was my father. And I
Oh.
talked about how, I was by his bedside when he was taking his last breath.
Oh.
Um, and I think because of that experience, watching a loved one that close, pass away, and knowing that he um, did not want that to happen. I was hoping, we were all hoping it wasn't his time.
Right.
And to know in his last moment when he grabbed my hand, because I became very upset knowing that he was expiring, he actually cried. And
Wow.
and I knew that that tear was for me. And so knowing, experiencing that, and kind of reminded me of the fragility of life, and the limited amount of time that I know I have on this earth, and really, the
Right.
that there's no time um, for debilitating grief. And
Mm.
so that was a story I told, how I got, kind of got out of debilitate paralyzing grief,
Mm.
because it really was paralyzing. And so because I told that story, I was a nervous wreck. I didn't know how I was going to respond, if I could compartmentalize enough to
Right.
share that story and get my message through. But I did, and I tell you, my husband came backstage after I got off the stage, and I collapsed. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad this is over. The second TEDx talk I had a lot of fun with. I knew I had a really good story. It was much more upbeat. It was about a transformational travel, or transformational experiences. Um, and I had fun. And so I think I actually took improv classes before that second one, and so I was able to, get a couple of little zingers in, and people responded to that. So I enjoy that. And the third one, oh my gosh, Kim, this is actually a funny story. Um, I had third one was at Wayne State University in Detroit, and that's where I went to law school. And so I was invited to present at Wayne State, And prior to that, I had come down with bronchitis.
Oh, wow.
And so, and I don't remember how I ended up with a bronchitis, but I was taking these lozenges called fisherman's lozenger, and they had a drying effect. And so I'm taking these lozenges on the day of the presentation, taking these lozenges, drinking water to stay hydrated. I just
Right.
bought a brand new pair of boots, which is a no, never do that. Never, ever, ever.
Not when you have to stand.
Not when you have to stand. When I had on Spanx. And so by the time,
You just created stress.
oh my God. Oh my God. My feet, first of all, in these brand new boots, I was sharp, but my feet hurt.
She looked good. She looked good.
And the loo from the stage, from where the loo was, I mean, it had to be a quarter mile away. It was a long, long walk. And so my feet hurt too bad to go to the loo right before I got on stage. I'm having water because my throat's dry. I took another lozenge because I didn't want to cough, go into a coughing fit on stage. And
Right.
I had to go on stage feeling incredibly miserable. And then, speaking in front of a bunch of many academics who kind of laugh like this. I mean,
And then Detroit, for those of you who don't know, Detroit is not an easy town. It's kind of similar to what is it, the Apollo Theater in New York. You have to bring it.
yeah, and I had a former classmate from high school. We were on the cheerleading team together, and we had not seen each other since graduation. But she followed me on Facebook and saw I was going to be there, and she came, and I thought, oh Lord, I just wasn't ready.
I can't have somebody who actually knows me here.
I know. I mean, my husband, my mother-in-law, they were different. Their family, it was okay, but somebody from high school, yeah. Um, but I got through it, and it was good, and I got even a chuckle. I mean, some of my jokes, but that was my TEDx experience, and really, really different from some of the other public speaking appearances I've had overseas and what have you. But those are very memorable.
Oh, wow. Wow. You are you had two sandwiched in challenging experiences in one wonderful experience. But I really believe that first one that you shared about your experience caring for your dad,
Mm,
I know that had to help somebody because there was somebody in your shoes or about to be in your shoes
mhm.
needed to hear you can come out on the other side.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I'd be happy to talk to you at another time about the grief journey because I've learned a lot, and it's very individual, and there's not what do you call it, a planning book, or there's not a manual on how to go through it, and so. But yeah, I mean, I hope that story did help someone. I hope it's recorded. It's on YouTube, and actually, I've had a couple of people request a link. Other friends who had seen the talk before request a link. So, I do hope it's helping someone.
Absolutely. And I know you wanted to share something with our guests. And if you want to type that in the chat, we can definitely share that with them. You had a free gift, right?
Oh yes. And I don't have the link readily available, but for newsletter subscribers, and you can also get to our newsletter from our website, worldfootprints.com. We
Okay.
do have a link to, or excuse me, there is a form that you can subscribe to a newsletter, and we give you a little travel checklist uh, when you subscribe. And I also had a book. I can see if I can find it real quickly, the link, but we have a book that we wrote with, we're contributors with people like Patricia Fripp and Tony Alexandra and other thought leaders who talked about just their success journey, their business journey. And let's see, I found the link. Anyways, we have a special, the book is called Success Simplified. And we have a link where folks can go and order it for US residents only. I'm sorry. But the book is discounted at a pretty significant rate. So I just put the link in the chat.
Okay, beautiful. Let's get that and put that up there. Okay, there you see. Beautiful. Let me share this with our audience. Okay. And get rid of that. Okay. And here we go. And I hope I'm not the only person in the world that talks to the screen. Oh, nope, that didn't.
I talked to a tree, so.
Let's see. Okay, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Okay. No. Okay. I'm gonna put it in the bottom of the comments section of the video to make sure it shows. I'm having a little technical difficulties here.
No worries. No worries.
I want to thank you so much for showing up today and sharing your story with Burnout, how you got into travel journalism from being an attorney, and just this wealth of experience, and just sharing some of the tips that you use to keep you out of burnout and to bring you back to recovery. Are there any last things that you want to share with our audience about leadership or burnout, or
you know, just about personal growth? Show yourself some grace. You know, people like us, and I know that people listening here and watching here are like many of us. We're type A's. Show yourself some grace. I think we're very hard on ourselves, unfairly hard, and when we're not working as hard as we think we need to, or doing the things we think we need to, or following along with societal pressures, we'll get frustrated. And I think it's important, as part of that self-nurturing practice I mentioned, give yourself some grace.
Those are beautiful last words. And thank you once again for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'm Dr. Kimberly Wilson with Leadership Beyond Burnout. And until next time, we'll see you Thursday at 5 o'clock here on E360 TV.